Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
Today, we're peeling back the layers on, well, arguably the most influential figure in world rugby right now, Rassie Erasmus. We're looking at a bunch of sources really focusing on his unique management style.
And the foundational shift he orchestrated in South African rugby. Our mission today is to give you the ultimate shortcut, the insider view on the why behind the Springboks' dominance.
Yeah, and we're filtering all of this through the memory of a legend, Percy Montgomery.
A man who knows Rassie inside and out. First Springbok to 100 caps, a 2007 World Cup winner. He saw Rassie the player and Rassie the coach.
Exactly. He was in the locker room with him and then worked under him. It's a full 360-degree perspective that you just don't get from reading match reports.
It's the real story.
Yeah.
And if you're serious about understanding how world-class sporting cultures are actually built, beyond just the final score, you need these insights.
You really do.
So make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession right now. You do not want to miss future dives into the game's biggest turning points.
Okay, so let's begin. Let's go back to Rassie, the player, the teammate.
This is what Montgomery remembers from the early days. And his first observation is just so emphatic. He said, there was something about Rassie that you just knew he was different.
But that difference at first was seen through these, personal quirks, right? Mixed with this incredible focus.
It's the details that paint the picture. Montgomery mentions his distinctive crooked fingers.
And then, of course, the story about the fruit.
The bananas. I love that anecdote.
True, it's brilliant.
So Montgomery and the other players would, mess with him by putting bananas in his blazer because Rassie just hated them.
It's classic team ribbing, but it's also a perfect snapshot of that older, sort of semi-professional culture,
Yeah, focused on banter, on pranks.
Yeah.
But even in that environment, Montgomery makes this really powerful point about Rassie.
This is the key.
He says Rassie was always the analyst in the team. That's what stood out. And when he spoke, everyone listened.
Everyone listened. That's it, isn't it? Even then. So what does analysis even mean in a late 90s, early 2000s environment?
Right. It's not like they were poring over data streams on laptops.
Not at all. It was about pure strategic observation. He wasn't talking about weekend plans. He was, breaking down defensive shapes, seeing patterns nobody else saw.
So his authority wasn't from a title. It was because his insights were just better.
Absolutely. He was applying a systems-based, data-driven approach before that was even really a thing in rugby.
And that contrast is so stark, isn't it?
Yeah.
The guy who is deeply analytical, stuck in a culture that's still focused on banana pranks.
That's the perfect way to put it. And that leads us straight to the huge cultural shift he had to engineer when he eventually took over.
The move from Rassie the player, surrounded by what Montgomery calls shenanigans, to Rassie the professionalizer.
Yeah, and this is where the real overhaul begins. Montgomery is clear that while they were, technically professionals, the whole culture was still very semi-professional.
And Rassie saw that as something that just had to go. So when he says shenanigans, what are we really talking about?
I think it's all the old school stuff. A lack of total ownership over your own prep, maybe lax nutrition, being a bit late for meetings, that kind of thing.
Valuing individual talent over, systemic discipline.
Precisely. And Rassie came in and, as Montgomery puts it, made it very clear that if you want to be a Springbok now, you just can't do that stuff anymore.
It wasn't a suggestion. It was a hard line. A non-negotiable.
And it had to be, because as the sources note, South African rugby was struggling with professionalism. Rassie didn't just bring new plays, he brought new standards, a whole new way of operating.
It feels like he forced the players to move from just relying on their individual talent to embracing systemic excellence.
That's the core of it. And what's amazing is how long he was planning this. Montgomery says Rassie had been scheming a long time ago. He was involved way back in 2011.
So this wasn't a quick fix he came up with in 2018.
Not at all. This was a decade-long project. And during that time, he went overseas to see what the other teams were doing. He was studying best practices, learning, synthesizing.
So how did he get the older guys, the established players who probably quite like that old culture, how did he get them to buy in?
Well, it goes back to what Montgomery said about him as a player. When he speaks, people listen. He didn't just ask them to change. He showed them with clarity and, with data why the old way was failing.
He gave them a blueprint for winning.
And as soon as the results started coming, that's when compliance turns into real conviction.
Which leads, of course, to 2 Rugby World Cup victories.
Yeah.
It's just a phenomenal turnaround.
And all of that conviction, all of that structure, it manifests in what so many people see as his greatest legacy.
The depth, the incredible playing depth.
This is the engine behind their dominance now. Montgomery says Rassie can confidently field a 45-man squad.
And it's that depth that allows for tactics like the bomb squad, the 6-2 split on the bench. You just can't do that without total faith in your reserves.
You can't. If your B team isn't as good as your A team, that tactic falls apart. It's a disaster.
Montgomery makes that brilliant contrast with a team like Wales, where he says they just don't have a B team ready to go.
It's a structural weakness for other nations that South Africa just doesn't have. They can rotate, they can rest players, and the intensity never drops.
And it's so profound that his co-host, Juan de Jong, actually corrected him. Montgomery said they have an A, B, and C team.
And de Jong jumps in and says, I think it's more A, and A.
Which is just a whole other level. It means if a starter gets injured, the next guy just steps in and the system doesn't miss a beat.
And it's not an accident. You see this philosophy now through the whole of SA Rugby, from schoolboys to provincial teams like the Stormers, even the Blitzboks 7 side.
He didn't just build a team, he rebuilt the entire talent pipeline. It's an incredible achievement.
It really is. And, if you're enjoying this analysis of how world-class systems are put together, this is the perfect moment to remind you to subscribe to Rugby Obsession.
We'd also love to know your thoughts. Which Springbok player do you think has benefited the most from this incredible A depth strategy? Let us know.
So when you pull this all together, Rassie Erasmus's impact is, well, it's global. He hasn't just won trophies. He's changed the entire conversation around team structure.
Yeah, you see that sentiment everywhere. Brian Habana gave the team the ultimate compliment, reflecting just how respected that new standard is.
And Rassie himself personally has been recognized for it. The sources name him Planet Rugby's Personality of the Year, calling him the gravitational center of Test rugby.
The gravitational center, that's a huge statement. It means everyone else has to react and organize themselves around what you're doing.
It's the schemer, the analyst from the locker room, finally applying his vision to an entire national system, and it's worked spectacularly.
It really has. Which leaves us with, I think, a really powerful final thought for you to consider. Given the massive advantage South Africa has built through this professionalism, this A depth strategy, which other major rugby nation is actually in a position to replicate that model?
That's the big question for the next 4 years, isn't it? Who has the structure and, maybe more importantly, the cultural will to pull off a transformation that complete?
Is it one of the Six Nations teams?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe a Southern Hemisphere rival like New Zealand looking to rebuild?
We'd love to hear what you think. Who can follow Rassie's blueprint?
Let us know. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Rugby Obsession and leave a comment with your thoughts on Rassie Erasmus's legacy.
Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we will look forward to you listening to our next episode.